Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, March 3rd at 3 o'clock p.m., which means it's time for Women in Business. I'm so excited to see you all today. It's a sort of beautiful day here in Northern Michigan, maybe. We've kind of got sun, so if the lighting goes weird, it's natural lighting, so there isn't a whole lot I can do about it. But anyway, lighting is neither here nor there. What I'm really excited about today is Meg Erber from S S is here. And she is one of their sales ninjas, the sales ninja. She's amazing. And we're going to have the best talk. And I'm so excited. But I want to tell you a little bit about Meg before I bring her in. She likes long walks on the beach and ripping people's arms off. Now, you got to admit, that is the most unique first sentence to a bio I've ever heard. She's 89% Scottish and a United States Navy veteran. She loves a good t-shirt, salted caramel mocha in her coffee, hot yoga, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She is a huge advocate for women's self-defense in the industry and hopes to raise awareness by empowering like-minded women to learn self-defense, self-awareness, and confidence in themselves through the art of Jiu-Jitsu and yoga. And Jiu-Jitsu is harder to say than you would think. During her 9-to-5, she works for a company, S S Activewear, that embraces and supports her big personality. She also co-hosts the Industry Insider podcast live every Wednesday with Jeff Franklin and Stephen McFadden. So I'm going to drop that on the floor because we're just classy like that here. And let's bring Meg in. Hey, Meg, it's so good to see you.
Oh, thank you, Christine. You as well.
Yeah, and there's so much I want to talk to you about. But I want to start with something that I have seen. Well, first I have to do one thing here real quick. We had a comment come in with the dreaded Facebook user. The way to get rid of that is to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and give them permission to use your name and show us who you are. So I just want to get that out of the way real quick so we can, we're going to try to get that out of the way. There we go. So yeah, I know the operator is having a little issue today apparently, but
this platform is really cool. It's the first time I've done it. I really like it. Good job.
StreamYard is actually, I don't know, Two Regular Guys podcast. Are you familiar with Aaron and Terry? Mm-hmm. They use this and they turned me on to it. And it's a really nice little platform. It works really well and it's not hugely expensive to use. So I like it a lot. But the first thing I wanted to start with today is because I was on the same side of things that you are on, the supplier side of things. I wanted to talk a little bit first about being a supplier in the time of COVID, because I know I see, you're familiar with the Women in Garment Decoration group.
Yep.
And I know I see people commenting every once in a while, gee, it's been really tough getting thus and so thing, or, you know, it's had to come from 3 different warehouses. And since you're on the supplier side, as I was when I was at Enmart, I thought I'd ask you, how are you guys coping with this? And what have you had to do to make it work?
Man, so you're talking about the Hunger Games when it comes to inventory. Yeah. So yes, it's been tumultuous to say the least. And we are really just battling still the COVID disruptions to the supply chain. You know, when COVID first hit a year ago, I can't even believe, I mean, it hit sooner, but to us in the United States was a year ago, and everything shut down. Like everybody, nobody was doing anything. I mean, barely anyone was essential because nobody knew that we had to be essential. We were just, you know, sitting tight and waiting for the word for the 2 weeks to pass. It was really scary. It was really scary. I know on the podcast, we switched from doing audio to going live because in their cars, everyone was sitting in front of their computers and we wanted to make sure we could get in front of our audience. But as far as, the COVID disruption. So when everything stopped, people that became essential first started making PPE. Like Bella Canvas came out with the very first one, and and it was like, hey, we have access to this mask. We need to give our customers something to sell. We have to get them back to work. It may not have been the best mask in the But it
worked.
It answered a question. It answered a solution. It was a huge problem. I mean, we couldn't, we worked day and night probably for the first month, just trying to fulfill the orders and trying to get them out the door. So that's what we were dealing with. But think about it. They couldn't even fill those demands. Like we were shipping in millions and millions every single day, and they were just flying out before we could even get the order prepared. So they had to repurpose their machinery to start making these masks. So they weren't necessarily cutting and dyeing t-shirts anymore. So they were cutting and dyeing masks. They had to completely see this. And so did, the Gilliams of the world and the Hanes of the world. Everyone, that's what everyone was doing. Because we had a lot of these government, contracts, and they needed, and the healthcare workers, they're the ones that needed them first. So they were contracted to make masks. So no one's making t-shirts, no one's making fleece, they're making masks. Okay. So number one, so now we're like at least a month or two out of no one really making this stuff for, people are, but not on any level that they were before at all. So now we're like 2-3 months into it. We're starting getting back. Now you have to think about this. They were hit a lot harder down in Central and South America than we were. Their COVID restrictions are tighter. Trying to go in there, you need like multiple COVID tests just to be able to, go to Costa Rica. So it was a lot tighter. They had a lot less people coming back to work. So even though we all might have come back to work or tried to come back to work in May and June, they still weren't back to even a fraction of what they needed to be. So then now we're in t-shirt season. We're in summer, and we're trying to mix and match t-shirts just so we can get a full order. And then a hurricane hits. Man, no one really knows about this, and I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen the videos myself. But I saw waves literally crashing over Gildan. They were literally crashing over the plant in Nicaragua.
Oh wow!
Right? So I mean, think
That's
of
nasty.
all of the machinery, everything was done. And that also happened to Bella Canvas as well. So, I mean, you think of these two leaders, and they're both in their niches in the fashion market and the basic market. So when everything else we have to pull from everyone else just to be able to fill orders, everybody is going depleted. So from making masks to the hurricane to, it's just I don't know. It was just a really crappy year last year.
Well, it was, I think, a lot. And I think the reason that I asked you about this is just that I think everybody tends to focus on their own little area of it. Like if you're a decorator and you can't get whatever you need to get, you're just focusing on, I can't get what I need to get. And you're not. And if you're a supplier, same thing. I mean, I'm sure you guys were doing the same thing, and so was everybody else going, okay, you were talking to your suppliers going, but I need these because people need them. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And, it ends up, it's just challenging, which kind of leads me to the next question. Being in sales yourself, the self-proclaimed sales ninja, which I like. If you were a decorator, what would you be telling people right now? Because a lot of what I'm seeing is, well, I don't want to blame it on my supplier because that's kind of wimpy, but how do you position it, I guess?
No, that's a great question. And I love that question, actually, because it's a great avenue and platform to be able to educate people. It's all about setting that expectation with your customers. You never want to overpromise and underdeliver. So right off the bat, they have to understand that, you think of it this way. When you go to buy something on Amazon, half the time right now, and especially during COVID, it wasn't 2-day shipping. It's because they couldn't keep up with the demand. It's the same right now. You have to set the expectation with your customer. Let them know that the problems that we've incurred through the supply chain. Let them know that, we will do our best to give you all Gildans or whatever, but, we might have to sub out a size, or if we can't find that extra large anywhere, we might have to substitute a different brand, different color, or put it on back order for you. So it's all about setting an expectation. And I found if you're able to do that with your customers, then there's a lot less disappointment at the end. And I hate saying that. We're living in this new normal where we all have to adapt. We all have to evolve, and we have to have a little grace. And I think if we can just show everybody a little grace and be patient, and as long as we're transparent and honest, I think
that's it right there.
Winning combination. We're all human, and we are all going through this. We all are in this together, as cliche as that is. We all are. Now, because we're all in different parts of the country, we've all experienced different ranges of COVID and different ranges of shutdowns than everybody else. So that's why it's important to have that grace, because where people in Florida or Texas may not be feeling the same thing they're feeling in New York City or out in California.
Right.
It's just all about having some grace. But I always suggest reaching out to your supplier partners and let them help you, because if you might just be trying to get that one black hoodie, that in extra large, or that crew neck, and you just keep checking every couple of days and it's not going to be there. But people on the inside, we are checking it like 17 times a day, because it literally is like the Hunger Games. So let us help you, because, you know, we're doing it all, you know, all day long, basically. So when we see the inventory post, we can get it out to you.
Well, what I liked what you said there is, I mean, there's a couple of things. First of all, we're all going through this together. Everybody knows this is happening. It's not like this is some big secret that's just in the decorating community. So, you know, when you explain to people that, you know, hey, there are issues because of, you know, COVID and this happened or whatever, it's not like they don't know that. And I think honest and transparent too is that, here's a good one. I like this. Cindy says, I will say one thing, S&S gets my packages to me. The others are slower. I appreciate that. And you got 4 exclamation points there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as much as I would love to take credit for that, because, you know, any good salesperson does, they take the credit for everything. But, you know, it wasn't even just the supply chain. It was also the logistics. Yeah. I mean, I remember ordering a present for my kids in late November, and I didn't even get it till mid-January. So, you know, it depends on, I will say, I know UPS was like capping orders for all of us, you know, so we would have to ship out FedEx, we would have to ship out USPS. And then it was like in the hands of the gods. I think there was a meme going around and it was like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but stop checking that tracking.
Yeah, it's not gonna. Now. Well, I think that's the other thing too, is that like, I didn't know for quite a while that the shipping services were actually capping. I happen to have a friend somewhere who works for another supplier, and they said, well, yeah, we're getting capped. We can only send so many. And I was like, no way. Yeah. I'm so glad I'm not working for a supplier anymore. I was so excited. I was like, I could not imagine.
And Christine, it wouldn't even probably be that much of a deal, but the order and sales kind of process and history, it has changed in the course of the year.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So whereas like last year, let's say I'm just using these numbers as an example. Let's say the average order was 500 pieces, 500 to 1,000 pieces average order. Well, we're not getting those average size orders anymore. Right. We are getting them, but now we're getting them as 500 or 500 1 or 2 piece orders from all these e-commerce sites, these Etsy shops, these, you know, fulfillment pieces, because that's what we saw. We saw over COVID that a lot of these e-commerce sites popped up, or our customers pivoted or shifted, again, adapting and evolving to the necessity. And that was being able to sell their goods online. Whoever could be the unique one, whoever could do something different, you know, people were really absorbing different social media platforms. And I feel like those were the people that were doing it really, really well. And they were killing it. I mean, and that's also why you would see the orders, like we're in COVID, like, why are you having so many orders? That's because we had to pool now 500 orders, not one order. You get it? So now that time that takes to pool those orders, now we have to ship them all. Now UPS has to ship 500 different orders. So there's a lot that goes on in the back end that I don't think a lot of people understand and realize, but I think that's a really, I mean, whatever question you asked me led to that. So it was a great question.
Well, and I think that was one of the things that occurred to me that I wanted to kind of spotlight too, was the fact that suppliers forecast as well. You make assumptions based on typical order size and the time of year it is and all that kind of stuff, what you need to have. And then COVID came in and was like, yeah, hold my beer. I'm just going to blow all that out of the water because I'm going to cancel sports and I'm going to screw, you know, all the stuff that decorators normally do. So it's just, I really did want to address that with you right up front here just a little bit, because I think you're the first guest I've had in a while that was working on the supplier side of things. And like I said, I've seen the comments come through in the group a little bit and I felt like maybe people just didn't understand the whole story.
Yeah.
So
a lot of moving parts and
it's a lot, and the frustration happens everywhere. I mean, as frustrated as the people as the garment decorators are. I know from being on the other side of it, which is why I have sympathy with the suppliers, that suppliers are sitting in their offices, like you said, refreshing things 17 times a day, going, where the hell is it?
Yes.
You know, and just really wanting to. So I really wanted to, and I also wanted to get the bit out there about, here's some ways to approach dealing with this, because it is a whole new playbook. And if you're used to doing things a certain way,
yeah,
everything's a little different now.
Yep.
And honest and transparent, I think, is the main thing. And I preach that all the time, that you never can go wrong with just telling people up front what's happening, and then they get it and they can do what they need to do, and you're all, and like you said, overpromise and underdeliver. No,
you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's right. I was like, wait, that's not right. Don't do that. That's bad. But my brain today, I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to approach that. And then I'm going to do a sharp pivot here. It's not going to be an elegant one, but this is one of the other things that I really wanted to talk to you about, because this is a pet peeve of mine. And when I saw your bio, and when I told you earlier before we went live, I've been stalking you the past few days, watching all the podcasts you've been on and things. And one of the things that I really like is the whole empowering women through physical fitness. Now, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and yoga happens to be the two avenues that you take, but I feel this is really important. And you couldn't really tell it by looking at me at the moment, but I've taken off about 60 pounds and have learned to be much more fit. And I actually have muscles now, which is a big deal for me. But what I learned from this is the approach to fitness that was always presented to me was, you need to lose weight. You need to be more physically presentable. And number one, I'm built curvy. That's not going to happen for me. I'm never going to be a size 6. It's just not my thing. And the other thing was, I never quite got why, if I was a size 6, I was acceptable. But if I was a size 16 or 18 or whatever, I wasn't. You know, leaving health issues aside. Mm-hmm. So what tripped it for me is I had some health issues, and I had to figure it out because my heart was working way too hard. And so I started looking at it from I want to get healthy. I want to be able to do the things I want to do and be safe and be good at, and all that. And once I looked at it like that, I was like, okay, this totally makes sense to me. And all the stuff that I totally hated, the sweating and the burpees and the kickboxing, and I was like, yes, I'm there. So I want to ask, that's like way more of my story than you needed.
That's what we're here for.
But I want to ask you, how did you get into jiu-jitsu, and what has it brought to your life? Let's start there.
Man, that's a great question, because I actually talked about this briefly I just had 5 minutes to wrap up a life story, and it was so hard. It was
I saw that common skill.
Yeah. So I love this story. So I was actually going through a really bad breakup, and I gained a bunch of weight, and I needed to fix me. I felt like, because in life, there has to be accountability. You have to be accountable for your actions. If there's things going wrong in your life, then look at what you're doing. Look at the way you're self-talking to yourself. And the reason why I bring that topic up is because I just listened to somebody and just had Alina. I'm not going to butcher her last name, so I'm just going to say Ruben. And she was saying, what's that one question that you ask yourself every day? You don't have to say it out loud, but think about it. And I know what it is for me. And then that same question is how you perceive things now, because it's constantly at the forefront of your head. If you change that question, think about the outlook and think about your mindset will change. So with that being said, I was in the military. I was one of 5 children. I was the only girl growing up. I got bullied a lot growing up, like a lot. And I remember wanting to run away a couple times. Like I was probably too awkwardly skinny with like elbows and knees and ears for days. So my childhood was like, just, it wasn't my favorite part of my life, you know, growing up. And so I joined the military, and I feel like I got a lot of confidence out of that. Went to college, I had children, and then I was going through, so I'd already been married and divorced, and I was dating somebody, and we broke up, and it was really hard on me. I gained some weight, and I found a personal trainer that I was like, oh, you know, we're a new gym in town. Why don't you come check it out? And so I had gone to the gym, and he was like, oh my God, I'm almost 6 foot tall. So he was like, have you ever done jiu-jitsu? And I was like, no, but I box a little bit. And then he started working with me, and then I did my first tournament, and I started winning. And then I just learned so much self-confidence of being able to defend myself against bigger, stronger people. And it became like almost like a drug. Like you become addicted to it, because it's just so amazing to be able to be in a very non-dominant position, like laying on your back. It's what I always talk when you're in a final destination for a sexual attack. That is where you're going to be. And I'm actually the most dangerous. So I try to teach that and kind of instill that confidence and teach those moves. So if that happens to somebody, God forbid you are in that position, this is a last resort, I'm going to teach you how to get out of that. And not only that, I instill on how to protect yourself out of, not getting into that position. But once you are, you want to be able to defend yourself. And big shout out to Shannon Laredo in Houston, Texas. And I've been preaching this, and she started her first jiu-jitsu class last couple of weeks, and has been good. She reaches out and asks all these questions, and I love how passionate she is about it. And I can see it. I can see that little fire has sparked in her, because you want to keep learning more, because you never stop learning in that sport, which is great. It's not something that you do for the fame or the vanity. You're doing it because it's empowering. It's a chess match. It's a physical chess match. So it's constantly working your brain. So in chess, you don't just do your move and then go to the next move. When you are planning that move, you're also planning out your next 3 moves. Sure. And that's how it is in jiu-jitsu. And I also say this a lot. You learn. I'm sorry. You either win or you learn. There's no losing. I've done a lot of learning, and I feel like every time I learn something new, I just get stronger. And if it's not something that I'm working on, or I'm not doing well, I practice from that spot. And I apply that to life too. If it's something that I'm lacking in, like getting on these things is hard, on these virtual. And you have to just do it. Just face your fear and absorb it. And, sometimes when I used to public speak, I have this outgoing personality, but it scares the shit out of me. I used to have to get like pumped up to go into these meetings sometimes. Like, all right. And I remember the first time I had to, I know this is totally off topic, but I just had to say it.
No, go ahead, because this is another platform of mine. So
okay. All right. I remember going into I think it was a SAGME thing, and I started off, and I was like, oh my God, like sweating, like all these people have been here for so much longer than me, and I'm like the new kid on the block. And I just got up there, and I was like, just so you all know, I'm picturing you guys naked, except for you there. And I think that nobody expected me to say that, and it was just so funny. And then and then I was like, whew. And it was just easier. But I would have never have had that confidence if I didn't know jiu-jitsu. I would have never, and I don't think that I learned it from jiu-jitsu. I just knowing growing up, I was this very insecure, just small, and now I just have that confidence. And that came from jiu-jitsu. 110% that came from learning jiu-jitsu.
I'm just sitting here going, yeah, you just described my life story basically without the jiu-jitsu, but otherwise, because I was not skinny, I was too fat, but bullied as a kid, very quiet, very kind of, scared to do anything, terrified to be on camera, terrified to talk in front of people. And, here I am. Now you can't shut me up.
Right.
But I totally identify with everything that you're saying. And I think some of what helped me, I'm not going to lie. Yes, part of getting more physically fit was dropping the weight and feeling like I looked better, and that helped, not gonna lie. But the other part of it was the first time I did something that I thought I couldn't, like, okay, let's take an example that everybody hates, burpees. Hate them. Hate them. But I can do them now. I don't like them, but I can do them. And the first, going through routines and figuring out what worked for me and doing something that I thought I couldn't do and looking at myself in the mirror and going, hey, you have muscles and you can kind of see them. I'm like, yay.
You see that personal growth, and that's what you're getting out of it, is that growth. And it's not about just looking good. You can work out all the time, but if you're not eating right, a lot of that serotonin comes from your gut. And I found that out when I started doing like eating better and eating more Whole30 and more organic, is if you start looking at the back of every package of all the ingredients, one of the first 3 ingredients is always sugar. And you don't realize it's so addictive. It is so, I'm a junkie. I'm straight up, I'm a junkie. But I will say, when I first started eating better and I started detoxing all that stuff out of my system, by day 4 or 5, I said to myself, I don't know what heroin feels like, but I feel like I am coming off of something. Mm-hmm. It's because of all the sugar that I was detoxing from. And if you've done it, you know what I'm talking about. But after I got past that, I just felt like things were a little easier. Maybe my mindset was a little bit different. I started eating better. I was fueling my brain. I was eating whole foods. And so it's not just about working out. You work out because you want to feel better. It releases those hormones, those good feeling hormones. And on that topic, I just bought a Peloton, and not because I'm a bike rider by any means, but because what this industry is doing and what Peloton did in a pandemic, and the two together, it's all about community. I don't think half the people that have a Peloton have ever just owned a stationary bike in their garage or in their bedroom, because they're boring. They're like, it's like a clothes hanger. I mean, we have one in our barn where our entire gym is and nobody uses it. But I bought a Peloton because there's a community of keeping people accountable, to motivate you. And, you'll see Johanna and she'll be like, hey, it's my 4th ride. Who wants to get in on it? And then like 50 people from the industry, her competitors, her vendors, her customers are doing it with her. And like, how cool is that? Like, that's a community. That's awesome. So
you're hitting all my hot buttons today, because community is another one of mine. But first of all, I want to throw this in here because we had a shout out for Shannon Walsh-Fredo is fabulous from Jane. So I thought I would share that. But you're hitting all my hot buttons today, I got to tell you. Community is another one of mine. But I don't want to, I really want to address the whole thing of exercise as empowerment and exercise as health and well-being and all that, and not just so you can get your beach body. If I see one more woman's magazine saying get your beach body this summer, I'm going to lose every particle of composure I have left, and I don't have much.
I know. Well, we're kind of designed to feel like that and think like that. And we put so much pressure on ourselves. I'm so guilty of it. We were supposed to go on vacation in April, and I'm like, we gotta do something. Like, we gotta do something. We're going on this cruise looking like this. But we do it to ourselves. And maybe that's what makes us feel good. And that's a terrible thing to say, but and that's what yes, there's exercise to look good, there's exercise to feel good, and there's exercise to feel empowered. And my way of exercising and eating isn't going to be for everybody, but I feel like it's always good to share your stories and share your case studies and share what does work, because maybe I can inspire somebody else to pick up jiu-jitsu. Maybe I can inspire somebody else to join the Peloton promo club, and then have more of a community. And the jiu-jitsu community is just that. It's almost like a cult, but not a bad cult. Like a really awesome.
It's a good cult.
It's a good cult. So my whole background's been jiu-jitsu, and this industry has really just welcomed it with open arms. And I think I was one of the pioneers for women's jiu-jitsu, especially in our industry. And since nobody else was doing it, that's what differentiated me from a lot of sales reps. people, when they found out I would work at SNS or somebody else would work at SNS, they'd be like, "Oh, you work with that fighter girl." I used to work with Joe Hoffman from Jetline, now Alpha, or then Alpha. Now he's with I Promote You. But there's like a story that we would tell where I choked him out unconscious, and it was just hilarious. But he asked me to, not in a weird way.
Not in a weird way. Okay, I'll go along with that if you say so.
There was a bunch of people there. That's actually something that would happen. People would that didn't know me but would hear stories about me. We'd be at a networking event, and I could see it in their eyes. Like they'd be like, you know, and they'd start drinking, and then they would get enough balls to say.
Then they dare you.
I think I could take her. And I say every time, here we go again.
Here we go again. But what I love about this, and another thing that I want to just spotlight real quick, because I think it's important. One of the things that I hear from women a lot is networking events or going online or doing something like we're doing here. And they say, well, I don't know what my thing is. I don't know what I talk about. I don't know what my hook is. I don't know, and I mean, I'm guessing that you aren't always like, oh, yay, everybody knows me as the girl that can choke people out.
I hope I'm doing that now, it's like,
but at the same time, it's an entry point. Mm-hmm. It's a way in, and it's kind of an identity.
Yep.
A little bit. And it's like something that gets you in the door and gives you a brand of a sort, so that when you go in, you're not going in cold necessarily. Right. And I think that's a message I want to get out to more women, is find your thing, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu, and it doesn't have, but find whatever your thing is. I mean, Kelly DeFries has rhinestones, and, I'm trying to think of other women, but they're escaping me at the moment. But, there are people who have something that they're known for, and that gets them in the room. And it gives people an in to interact.
On that point, that's exactly what I do. And that's exactly what I've always done. And I always say, find something you're passionate about, because when you can put what you're passionate about and what you're doing and what you're selling in Women in Promo, mm-hmm. people believe you because you're so passionate about it that they're like, well, I want to be passionate about that. And that brings me actually to a product that SNS sells, and it's the quick flip bag. And if you haven't seen it, little backstory on this. So it was invented by a guy named Henner Gracie. And now those of you who know him, or those of you who don't know him, his great grandfather was the gentleman who invented Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His grandfather was the young man who brought it to the United States. So he's been training his entire life. So Henner Gracie, in my eyes, is like jiu-jitsu royalty. Okay. Sure. So here I am. I'm at the ISS show a couple years ago, and I hear him. And I'm like looking around. I'm like, I know Henner Gracie's not at the trade show. So I go back to my business, and all day I'm hearing people like, did you hear that guy over there? Did you go see that guy? So I go and check it out. Lo and behold, who's over there? Henner Gracie, talking all day, all night, doesn't stop, about this cool new bag that he has. And I'm like enamored. I'm like, have my two worlds collided? They did. They did. So I brought over my marketing guy. I brought over and I'm like, listen, this is the product. It was like a very nice fabrication of a sweatshirt. You take it off, flip it, it turns into a book bag. You've got like multiple branding areas.
Those, I think.
So SNS now has the exclusive. I was such a big advocate to bring this in. I pushed for it. And at first I think there's some cultural differences. He is Brazilian. He has a whole cute, crazy following. Mm-hmm. He's friends with everybody. So he can sell that bag at that price point and people are going to buy it, but he didn't understand how to bring that to this industry. So we really couldn't buy that bag for $70 from him and then resell it at $140 or $100.
No, not if you want people to buy it.
So there was that barrier, which took a lot of explaining on my end. Long story short, 2 years later, we had the exclusive on the bag, on the hoodie. And for me to be able to tell that story, I get so excited. I play the quick minute video. I talk about that. And I'm like, it tells my story because my story is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. My story is SNS Activewear. And now it's an easy sell. People see how passionate I'm about it. I'm like, now we have 6 styles, and they're like, yay! And then I get them a sample, and they're just like, oh my gosh, this just sells itself. So it's been a great product. We keep selling out of it. It's amazing. I'm just so glad, and that's how I align myself with a product. And that was just one product, but I'm able to tell a story. It's all about finding stuff you're passionate in. My other passion is hot yoga. And I actually started doing that about a little over a year ago, to heal from the 15 years that I've been doing jiu-jitsu. My body is beat up. And when you start doing a different sport or start doing a different type of exercise, there's different equipment that's needed, different apparel that's needed. You learn what works, where before someone could say, hey, my yoga gym wants to buy some t-shirts, what do you recommend? And I could only speak on behalf of what my vendors may have told me, versus now I can tell you what works for me. And hey, look, here's videos of me. I'm not saying, hey, look, but on my social media pages, I will do some type of physical activity and then tag the brand, talk about what I'm wearing, and like, hey, I'm wearing this because X, Y, and Z. And I wasn't being salesy about it, but I want you to see that, hey, I'm wearing this. It's working for me. Look what I'm doing.
Well, and that is right there. I'm doing a seminar at the end of the month, and you just have given me something to add to that. My seminar is on about being comfortable on social media. And what you just talked about is a perfect thing that every decorator could be doing, is do a small video, or don't even do a video, do pictures and write about it. It doesn't matter, but spotlight a garment that you think is great, that you're using in some way, or a bag, or whatever it is. And, like you said, tell a story. Stories are huge. Stories are so huge. I mean, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a writer, but if you have a good story, you're like 90% of the way there, I think.
I mean, I could have sat there and gone through 15 products with you, and you wouldn't have remembered a single thing about one of them. Maybe if you saw a visual and you liked the way it looked, you would have remembered it. But I just told you a story about a very cool product, and you remember it now because of that story.
Yeah.
This is our time as an industry. I keep going back to this Goonies quote. It's our time. Like because it is. We were put in this position. We're branding. We are marketers. we're entrepreneurs. It is our job to inspire our clients, to be able to inspire their customers. Like, we want to be able to put these logos into people's hands, these products into people's hands to provide inspiration. We're giving our customers things to sell, reasons to sell, stories to sell. And now it's all about putting those feet on the street and doing it. And I feel like having a good story about 1 or 2 or even 3 products, or find a niche that you want to highlight and go for it. But don't overwhelm people. Don't talk about like every single, look at the stitching and inside and out of the hem. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah. And that's something that the technical stuff is really cool, but most people don't.
No.
And I say this as a person who has learned a lot of technical stuff, because I've written about the industry for years, and I don't do any of it, but man, I can explain it real good. But a lot of the stuff that decorators focus on is the stuff that their customers are like, that doesn't, you have to find the thing that resonates. You have to find the thing that hits the target. And the target is not necessarily going to be, like you said, look at this cool stitching, or look at the way these stitches are lying and how they make this cool light effect. That is awesome if you're the embroiderer. It's not so much of a thing if you're the end user. So totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. But I have another question for you, because, that's what I do. I guess because I feel in some ways you and I have similar childhood stories, in that we were both kind of bullied and maybe didn't fit in as well. I got to ask, how did you come to sales as your career? Because that's not something I think of myself 20 years ago. And granted, okay, I'm 52 now, so I'm older than you, I know, but I wouldn't have gone in for sales. So I guess what I'm asking is I hear from a lot of women that they have, they, like you said, they feel kind of small. They feel kind of timid. They feel kind of like they should just maybe stay quiet and just do their little things and, you know, not make waves. And so I always like to ask women who have overcome some things in their lives, how did you get to the place where you started making waves?
So my very first job ever, I was like a cashier at an Acme. And I knew at that point I couldn't do that, you know. And then my next job, I was someone gave me a chance. That someone saw something in me that I didn't see myself. I was in high school and I was walking by a Foot Action USA and they were opening up a new store at our hometown mall. And hey, you want to fill out an application? Sure. And I'd have like a quick 10-minute conversation and I knew people. And I think she saw something in me. And I think that's all it took. So after that, I worked there all through high school and I was always like top salesperson. I'm selling sneakers. I mean, it was all about the add-ons and finding ways to like, you know, they used to have a 5% off discount card. And I knew that on $100, you could, the amount that would come off would be like a free pair of shoelaces. So I'd be like, hey, if you fill out this thing and get this card, you get a free pair of shoelaces, you know? So that add-on. And then I would like, oh, let me show you the shoe spray, like the cleaner. And I was so good at showing it that I was always selling it. So I was always getting these add-ons, but all it did was have someone seeing something in me and giving me a chance. But I had no intentions of staying in sales. I joined the Navy. I was like, I wanted to be a Navy diver. I ended up breaking my ankle in boot camp. I know. And I broke it and it was during one of our training exercises. And in boot camp, if you fail a test or you get hurt or whatever, I don't know, they set you back. They're like, you have to sit here and wait till you can pass that test or till you heal up. And I'm like, I'm not sitting up here for another 6 weeks. It's in the winter. So I taped it up with masking tape every day and I iced it in every meal. I know. So when I don't even know where this conversation was going, but it's like, these are the things that like you.
Well, there's a serious amount of determination there.
Determination, yes. So in my head, like, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the Navy for life. I wanted to do that. You know, things change. You have children. You have to leave them for one time. And you're like, I can't do this anymore. So I did my time, got out. I went to college afterward, and I wanted to go to school to be some type of doctor, like being more of like the research field. And I took one course in advertising as like a extra or whatever they're called. And then that was it. Didn't think anything of it. I was going through my divorce. I moved home. I answered an ad on monster.com and here I am today. This is almost 17 years later.
Your story, what I like about this though, is your story about working at the Foot Action or whatever. I want to say Foot Locker because that's what they are here. But, you had the sales brain though. And I really do honestly believe that there is a sales brain. Yeah. Because I've known a lot of really good salespeople, and there are some people that just make those connections. Like you were saying, like, I know you knew that if you bought $100, you get free shoelaces or whatever, if you use the 5% off card or whatever it was. There are brains that work like that. And there are brains that don't. And you apparently have a brain that works like that. But and the other thing that I want to take away from that story is the thing that you said, that somebody gave you a chance. Somebody saw something in you and took a chance on you. And that, I think, having had a couple mentors in my life as well, who saw something in me and said, you can do more than you think you can do. I think this is so important. And one of the things that I talk about a lot and I want to ask you about is mentoring. I mean, and there's two parts to this question. First of all is, have you ever had a mentor that really impacted your life? So let's start there. We'll start with that one and I'll hold the second question in reserve.
It's a good question. I mean, if I think throughout my life, I've blindly just done a lot of stuff, unfortunately. Sometimes it's worked and sometimes it's not. I never really had a figure in my life that could be like, hey, Meg, that's a bad choice. Or, But I will say though, once I did come into this industry and I took my first job as a supplier, my first boss on the supplier side was Joe Hoffman. He has been one of my mentors. I would say, whether he knows it or not, I adore him. I think he is one of the smartest people I know. He articulates himself well. He gives me advice. He makes fun of me when I need it. Like I invented him today and he like made fun of me. He was like, I was like, this is my pet peeve. And he was like, you know what else? Those people who have to pick up their kids, let's just cut them. And I'm like, all right, you're right. Doing the school pickup line. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right. You're right. But he's been my mentor, I would say, for most of the industry life.
Okay. And the second half of the question is, one of the things that I keep pushing is in the group mostly, but is mentoring others, that women, especially women, and in this industry, I think women need role models. They need people to see how to do things, to see who is doing things and who's succeeding at it. You know, just supporting community and all that stuff that we've been talking about this whole time. So here's what I run into a lot, though, is I'll say, you know, we need mentors. And the response that I get is, it takes too much time. I'm afraid I wouldn't be good at it. I don't know what I teach people, you know, just a lot of reasons why it isn't a workable option. And I guess where I'm going with this, and I'm not even sure I know where I'm going with this, but I guess let's start with, have you mentored anybody, or have you participated in mentoring programs in any capacity?
So yeah, I am in the like Promo Kitchen mentoree program.
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, back in 2013 it was 2014. Roger Burnett actually reached out to me when he was part of the Promo Kitchen. He was like, Meg, we're starting this whole thing. You know, based on your experience, we would love for you to be a mentor. And I was like, I'm on board 100%. He ended up making some transitions and left the industry for a little bit. We stayed in touch. He's back in now, obviously. But so I never was officially a mentor after that. I am. But what I love about it is that people are, what's the word that I'm looking for? People are comfortable enough to reach out to me, to ask me for my advice, because they value what I'm going to tell them based on my experience, or based on things that I've said, or based on things that I've talked to them about. I treat all of my customers like they're my family. And to the point where we had an event a couple of years, like maybe 2 years ago, before things shut down. And I remember feeling very anxious for no reason. Like, I have great relationships, but I felt like I was going to be in a room full of people I was dating all at the same time that didn't know each other. And it kind of was. And I swear to God, I said that out loud and they were laughing like, oh, you're right. And then not even 10 minutes later, one of my customers walks in and he's like, Megan, I have a bone to pick with you. And I was like, oh, here we go. I was just in line and I heard Susan saying that you were like her family. And I told her that you were our family. I was like, I knew that. But the fact that they thought it was so great that we're all like this family. And I really do. And I genuinely love my customers. I treat them like they're my best friends and they're my family. And they are comfortable enough to be like, hey, Meg, I'm thinking about making this move. Or, hey, Meg, what do you think about that? Or, hey, Meg, I'm looking to do this with my company. And I give them my advice. I tell them, make sure you aren't just asking my advice, because this is the hat that I'm wearing currently. I've worn these hats and it's coming from my experience. But I've also had a lot of failures, and it's a lot of trial and error. And that's something that I always encourage people. You have to have a couple of failures to be able to change. And going back to that thing that I said earlier, you win and you learn. And you got to remember that if you consider every failure a loss, and it's going to keep being a loss. You got to think of it as a learning opportunity, an opportunity to grow and evolve and adapt and not just survive. It's all about, thriving.
Well, and I think people are so scared of failure that and of not necessarily failure as much as public failure.
Oh, biggest.
Well, and I don't love it either. I mean, I'll admit I have a lot invested in being the woman who knows stuff, and it's like, which is fine, but if that's keeping me from growing or trying something new, I mean, I actually went public with the goal of writing a book this year. Ooh. Which is scaring the bejeebers out of me. But I've been talking about it. I mean, I've written for everybody and everything, but I've never written a book. So I was like, okay, it's time to do it. I've been talking about it for years. I got to do it. And now I'm looking at this big steaming possibility of maybe I'm not going to be able to do it, or maybe it's going to suck, or I don't think it will.
You know what? I don't think it will either. You've been doing this your entire life. Look, that's what Roger Burnett did. He partnered with Stan Phelps on a book about this industry, Red Goldfish. He blew it out of the park. Like, it's like a book that if you're like, oh, this is happening in my life, let me go and see what this book says to do. Like, that's, you could be that next book. I highly encourage you to do it with your accolades and your experience. I don't know who wouldn't buy that book.
Well, from your mouth to the reading public's ears, because there's a couple of them that are on the list of things that I'm working on. So we'll see. But anyway, I don't even know how I got on that, except that I get taking the big leap and being really public, because if you pancake, that's horrible.
It is.
But if you pancake, then you get up and you dust yourself off, and I wrote something in the group I do what we call Thursday Thoughts every week, where I write about whatever's on my mind on when I write it. And I wrote about opportunities and how people think that every opportunity that comes along is the only opportunity there's ever going to be. And so they treat it so seriously, and so, they want to grab it with both hands and never let it go. And it's like, people, life is a series of opportunities. Mm-hmm. If this one doesn't work out, then there's another one coming. And if you can't take them so seriously that either you don't try because you're afraid that if you lose this opportunity, you're done, or you get so stressed about it that you end up blowing things because you're so clenched. So I don't know. It's just, I mean, if you know anything about me, you know how passionate I am about helping women in this industry and helping them grow. And that's part of what this is. And that's part of what talking to people like you is giving viewpoints and experiences and all this stuff a little bit of a voice, so that hopefully some other woman out there who's starting out, or who's maybe younger or maybe older or whatever it is, get something that gives them a little bit of rocket fuel to go a little bit further. That's all this is, yeah. And it's just, one of the things I really love about this industry, and I love about women in garment decoration, is how supportive women are of each other in this industry. I've worked in several different industries. I have not experienced that.
Yep.
Every industry.
There's no other industry that has like a like a Facebook forum where all competitors, all coworkers, colleagues, we all get in there together, we brainstorm, we help each other, we collaborate. Well, I've never seen that anywhere else. And that's amazing. It goes to show that
it is. Well, and just the number of people who are educators, who are, doing things like this, who are doing things like Industry Insider, who are doing, which, before we go, and we're getting close to being at an hour, it goes really fast. Right. I do want to ask about Industry Insider, because I watched a bit of that, and I have to confess, I haven't watched a ton. I'm going to go back and watch some more later. But what's the purpose of Industry Insider?
You know what? That's a great question. I don't know if we ever really had a purpose. No, we did. So it all started, it was actually the three guys. It was Bill Petrie from the service provider perspective. You had Jeff Franklin from the supplier perspective, and you had Stephen McFadden from the distributor perspective. So whatever the topic would be that week, they would have three different perspectives for that topic. And then after they did their first 1 or 2 episodes, they were like, something's missing. We need a female voice. So they were like, let's put it out there. And then they had a list of a couple of people. And I was like, hey, let me throw my name in the hat. Why not? And they had me on, and I've been there ever since. There was no second look. So at that point, we just really were all about providing nerdy news and talking about different things that were going on in the industry. And it was like an audio podcast. So that's what it was. We would like pre-record 5 episodes and then launch them every week. And then COVID hit, and it was like, nobody's in their car. Nobody's gonna be listening to our podcast. Like, we got to do something. And before we were ready, I was like, we should go live. Like, let's just go live and see what happens. So we're ready. So then we just did it the following week, and wow, it has been so much fun. And we take things that are happening in this industry and we kind of give light to them, or, you know, for a while, everything we could talk about was COVID, but we didn't want to keep talking about COVID, you know? So then we brought in like different points of view. We brought in an end user, what they were doing. It was an end user who used to be in this industry, so we cheated a little bit, but we let it be known, okay? We brought in Meg Erber from Bella Canvas. I had Paul Bellatone. I had Henner Gracie. we've had everybody on there, and it's just like, it's an amazing opportunity to just kind of take half an hour and just like sit back and have a good laugh. And we have a good banter, we have good chemistry, and I have a really good team. And every week we have a new guest on, and it could be based off of something that we learned or something that's happening. Over the next, in like 2 weeks, we have an event. We don't have an event. It's St. Patty's Day. And we were thinking initially like, we should bring somebody Irish in, but like it didn't really pull the drive. We didn't pull. I'm like, hey, Amanda Delaney, are you Irish? She's like, no, it's my ex-husband's name. I was like, damn it. we thought a little bit deeper, and I don't know if you guys have seen the show Undercover Billionaire or not. Highly recommend. Ooh. The very first episode, a screen printer from our industry is in there, and he was the very start of this whole series, and it's amazing. And wow, on St. Patty's Day, so we're bringing him on our podcast on St. Patty's Day. So he's kind of, you know, but yeah, so he's done a lot of social media. He's doing a lot with giving back, which is really cool because we like to kind of highlight that as well.
Mm-hmm. So well, sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, we've covered a lot of ground. I'm just like, whoosh, we've gone through a lot of stuff in an hour.
Exhausted.
Well, I mean, this is usually how it goes. This is how I think the best ones go, is you just start talking about stuff and it leads you down a path and you don't even really know
where it's going.
Where it's going to end up, but you just have a good time getting to wherever you end up going. But I think we could probably go for about like another hour, but
oh, there go my dogs. Sorry.
Oh, there go the dogs. That's all right. But I think I'm going to just ask you if there's anything final you'd like to leave us with. Obviously, all your information will be included when I post on my website. The YouTube version of this, I can't even talk anymore. I don't know. And I'll include all your information and where people can find you and all that kind of stuff. So I just really want to say thank you so much. You were awesome.
Thank you.
I had so much fun. I really, really did. And I will be stalking you further from now on, because I got a lot out of today. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. All right. Well, I'm going to pop. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I'm going to pop you out and say goodbye, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Oh, so fun. I love these interviews. I know. I say that every time, and you guys are like, yeah, we know. But I do, and it was so amazing, and there was so much good content here today. I'm going to be promoting this one a lot. And I thank you all for being here with us today, and for your comments, and for spending the time with me as you do every week. And next week, we'll have another great episode for you. Thanks, guys. You were amazing. I appreciate you watching as always. And thank you, of course, to Meg, who was amazing as well. And that is it for today, y'all. Thank you so much.